Welcome back to the Nour Hadidi podcast. Today is a guest episode where I talk to two really incredible, wonderful people, comedian Noam Shuster Eliassi and documentary filmmaker Amber Ferris. They were in town in Toronto for a screening of their documentary called Coexistance, My Ass. We had an incredible time talking and getting to know them and the paths that they were on and what ended up culminating in this documentary. I also got very emotional, very vulnerable. I had an honest talk with Noam, and I just feel so lucky that I'm able to have incredible guests who are using their voices in a way to bring about change in the world. First we had Ethan and now we have Noam, and I just feel like we're on a roll. And so enjoy. All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast where we talk about art as a tool for resistance and change. I'm so excited for our guests today. That's right, guests. We have two, not one, but two. It's like 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner, you're getting a deal.
Curly hair.
Yes. All right. So my first guest is Noam Shuster Eliassi. Yay! Go Noam! Noam is an Israeli comedian, performer, and activist known for her sharp wit and her fearless approach to challenging societal norms. She was raised in Nef Shalom, which in Arabic is Wahat al-Salam, and it's the only intentionally mixed Palestinian Jewish community in Israel. Noam, she brings a unique perspective to her comedy that she performs in Hebrew, Arabic, and English. So, wow, way to make all comedians who only perform in English feel bad, Noam. Her most recent one-woman show, incredible show, Coexistance, My Ass, is a satirical exploration of the peace-building industry and the complexities of identity and conflict in the Middle East. Which brings us to our second guest.
Actually, I just want to say that's a really good. We should take that.
Oh my God.
That's a really good bio.
Is it ChatGPT?
Like, I'm gonna steal that.
Maybe.
Is it ChatGPT? It's ChatGPT. Woo. Good job, robots.
Yeah. Thank you, Sam Altman in Silicon Valley.
We give them so much information about us. It's amazing.
Non-consensual, but yeah. So because the show is also the focus of an incredible documentary that I had the privilege of watching last night, we have the documentary filmmaker herself. Is that the pronouns you go by? I didn't ask. Yeah. Herself. Great. Amber Ferris is here. Amber Ferris is an award-winning Lebanese-Canadian filmmaker and cinematographer known for her compelling storytelling and bold perspectives. She gained international notoriety with her debut film Speed Sisters, which is also a documentary filmed in the West Bank, following a look at the first race car driving.
The Palestinian women race car drivers.
Race car drivers. See, I decided to talk from the heart and not GPT, and it's not going as well. So I'm gonna go back to ChatGPT. Here we go. Which spotlighted the first all-female car racing team in the Middle East. There, that's better. So Amber's latest project, Coexistence, My Ass, is a documentary that follows Noam as she develops her one-woman show. And it had its premiere at the 2025 Sundance Film Festival. And it offers a look at the intersection of comedy and activism. Noam and Amber, welcome to the show.
Yay. It's so cool that you attended the premiere here and that you we got to you saw the film and we performed together.
Yes, we did. We did a show after, which was amazing. It was incredible to share the stage.
You were so good. You killed it non-violently.
Oh, I peacefully killed. It was such a great experience. It was so lovely to have people who were Arab and Jewish in the audience there for you, but for us to share the stage. I think it was such a wonderful moment. Usually when I go to any pro-Palestinian event, nowadays it's a lot more the whole world has its eyes on Palestine. But before that, it was mostly Arabs and Muslims. But you don't necessarily see particularly Israeli Jews at the forefront of that movement.
No, I mean, we also say that in the film, like, the Palestinians know what I'm saying. And the audiences where we have to work, and the people that I actually want to listen is people who are unfortunately are unable to hear the same things that I'm saying, but from Palestinians.
Yes.
So they need Israeli Jews to get them to the other. We said that in the Q&A as well. If it's easier for you to hear it from me and move to the other, to the other step, then you also, like, I'm happy that you're listening to me, but you also have some homework to do to ask yourself why you don't believe Palestinians, you don't listen to Palestinians, and it's easier for you to digest this from an Israeli Jew.
And I think this ties into your upbringing. Can you tell us about Wahed Salam and what that place is like today in the wake of what's happened?
There are like kids who grew up in the village who like hide it so that people don't ask them about it, because one of the things we joke about the kids who grew up there is that everywhere we go we carry this like responsibility. And as soon as people hear that we are from that village, they're like, oh my God, how was it to grow up there? How did it, tell me, like, is there really coexistence? Do people really get along? Like, do the Jews go to the army at the age of 18? Like, like there is always a set of questions. And obviously I'm doing comedy about it, so obviously I get asked about it all the time, which is, it's great. I think for people who have no idea what's going on and they have no idea that such a community even exists,
I had no idea.
So it's always an interesting thing. And the first thing I'll say, it's tiny. It's so tiny. It's like, I think there are like about 100 families who live there. It's a very small community. There's a huge waiting list to move there.
There is?
There is, yeah.
Can they not expand?
No, because Israel likes to designate land for Jewish only, villages and settlements. But this is kind of like, so the village was founded in the 70s. It's between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. And it was founded on a no man's land. It's like a neutral land. Okay. It belongs to a monastery or a monastery? Monastery? A church.
You know what? I'm ESL as well. Yeah. So it's just going to be, that sounds good. Monastery.
A religious leader, actually an Egyptian Jew who converted to Christianity. His name is Bruno Hossar. He's like the spiritual, person who was a monk at this monastery called Latrun. They had this piece of land and they decided they want to dedicate it. That's in the 70s. Their idea was to dedicate this place in the Holy Land as a religious kind of like, vision for the Holy Land. And they invited Jewish, Christian, and Muslim families to move there. And then the people who actually thought it was a great idea and wanted to move there, like the first families, they were like, this is not really about like 3 religions coming together. This is about like 2 people. There are Palestinians who are Christian and Muslim, and there are Israeli Jews, and the first families that kind of, and this is, back in the 70s where, things were different. And there were like these first few families that were, this sounds like a great idea and a great experiment. And they just started moving there and they built the School for Peace. And so by definition, it is the only place where Jewish and Palestinian families, both Christian and Muslim, came to and established this place. And my parents actually moved there right before the Oslo agreements in the 90s.
Wow.
So I remember I was born in Jerusalem. And then I did my first grade in Tel Aviv in this like very woke, democratic kind of school. Like my parents were setting me up for this like very typical leftist, Tel Aviv situation. And then the Oslo Accords happened. And I remember my mom picking me up from school with like a bouquet of flowers and tears in her eyes and said, no, we're going to watch the peace accords being signed. And this is after years of watching my parents kind of miserable, politically, because my father, as a reserve, for reserve duty in the Israeli army, they kept calling him
him?
back for duty, and he refused.
Wow.
So he was going in and out of military prison.
Wow.
So my dad was like among the refuseniks back then in like the first Intifada. So I was watching my dad like going in and out of prison. My mom alone, she was pregnant with my brother, and like we were alone, and my mom is pregnant, and like my dad is kind of like absent and then comes back and then goes away. And as a child you see all of this, and then suddenly my mom shows up with flowers and she's like, oh, we're going to watch the peace accords being signed. And I saw her happy. And at the same time we moved to the village and
to
to
Neva
Wahat
Shalom.
Salam. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
It's funny because most moms are like, we're going to go watch the Super Bowl. But
Yeah.
with you guys, it's like, we're going to go watch the peace agreements get signed. I love it.
exactly, yeah. No fun when your parents are political. So so then we moved to that place, and my reality changed.
How
I-
old were you when you moved?
I was 7.
Wow.
So it's like, if before I was in a school where my teachers were speaking to me only in Hebrew and only the Jewish holidays are being,
Observed.
celebrated and observed, suddenly I'm in a school where my Palestinian teacher is speaking to me in Arabic, and she's not going to switch to Hebrew. She's like, that's how you're going to learn Arabic, and you are going to understand me in a few months. So
You picked it up in a
I
few
picked
months?
it up. I picked up Arabic so quickly. I don't even remember the gap because it was so
Wow.
quick.
Does it help that they're both from right to left, do you think?
You know what's funny? My mom spoke Persian at home, and Persian and Arabic are not similar. But as soon as I learned Arabic, I could pick up all the gossip that my aunties and I have a cousin. I have 3 cousins called Shirin because it's a Persian name.
Amazing.
Because
Shireen is the Arab Muhammad.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Shirin means sweet in Persian. And I remember one time I heard my aunties like whispering like Shirini Hamela, and I'm like, I know what's that in Arabic, Hamel. I'm like, Shirin is pregnant. It's like, how did you understand? Like, it's the same in Arabic.
Oh my
And
God.
so that was like, I remember like one of the first points where I was like, okay. And I think also the Iranian Jewish identity in my household that is, there are similarities in the kind of, Middle Eastern kind of Iranian, Persian Jewish, like kind of, with my Palestinian neighbors. And I remember that was kind of a way to where I felt, the similarities, and I knew that I'm growing up in a very different and unique place to the outside world, but it became so normal to me so quickly.
Did you stay in touch with anyone from your old school?
I was so little that not really.
Right.
But the extended family that took a bit of time to get used to this new place we're living in. It's funny because with time, it's almost like we educated, or we changed you change the lives also of your I guess your circles in
extended family.
Yeah, like your extended family, because in the beginning there was a lot of like suspicion. And I remember like when my cousins were coming and we're like, oh, like they couldn't tell in the playground like who's Jewish and who's Arab. And there was, but then after a while, like my the friends I grew up with were coming to, they were part of our household. So it was, and to me it was just normal.
Okay.
He's telling you need to put
I need to,
Yeah.
No, thank you. I need to be louder as a woman in here and everywhere else in my life. Okay.
Louder.
Yeah.
No, but it's again, it's very small, and it's very, very different from the rest of the reality in the country, where there is like deliberate, segregation and inequality.
Yes.
And Palestinians don't get to have land, expand land, legally build. And in schools, the educational system is so it's racist. It is erasing Arab culture, even
Wow.
Jewish Arab, like even Jews who come from
Mizrahi
Arab.
Jews, yeah.
Yeah, there is a famous. I actually just met this artist in New York. There is a very famous artist. I think he's of Yemeni Jewish descent, and he has a picture where he's holding 9 pages out of the 400 pages book that we learn in high school about Jewish history. Only 9 pages are about non-European Jewish history.
Wow.
So it's like Arab culture is like erased in the
a lot of times you hear about like, oh, Arabs enjoy equal rights or they're treated just the same. But what you're explaining to us is that's not the reality.
Yeah,
That's just a
no.
talking point to make it seem like Israel is a democracy. That's because that's what they appear to be. But in reality, it is segregated. It's not normal for kids to switch between the two languages. Their history is erased in school. So I think you're telling people a lot of things that they don't know, that the mainstream, doesn't inform us.
I think what's being pointed to is that Palestinian citizens of Israel have the right to vote, and therefore they participate in democracy, and therefore they have equal rights. And I think what is overlooked is there's something like 76 laws, like nation state laws, which
Right.
apply only to Palestinian citizens of Israel. There's things like, towns that are predominantly Arab get, pay higher taxes, receive less, there's just a number of, they're not allowed to buy property in certain places. I don't know if this is still the case, but they didn't serve in the army, and therefore were
They're
like,
not allowed to serve in the army.
I think it's optional for them to serve in the army.
there's
I'm
like
not sure, but-
there's like a certain system where they can volunteer for like civil service, or in some units they can, if they really want to, they could serve in the army.
Yeah, and I think the army has a way of like there's a system from the army that goes into what your employment is afterward. Like so they're not afforded the same. Like I think, but there isn't there something like 76 nation state laws that exist.
I don't know the
yeah.
exact number, but yeah.
Wow.
67,
67.
maybe 48. I'm not sure.
No, but so in high school, I my major was theater, and then I took Arabic just to have an easy A.
Right.
So, but the Arabic that they teach in Hebrew Jewish high school is Arabic that designates you to basically to the intelligence, to the army. We don't learn Arabic to live, to read poetry, to all of that. Like we don't learn Mahmoud Darwish. No, we're learning. Like it was I just wanted an easy A, and I also had no idea how the army is involved with who is studying Arabic in high school, and so
And tracking your grades.
and tracking my grades.
The Mossad is always listening.
And one day, intelligence officers took me out of class and wanted to talk to me.
Wow.
And I understood basically what they are saying is that do I know how good my Arabic is, and how what are the like interesting positions I can have when I go to the army. And then I realized that the Arabic that I learned at home from my Palestinian neighbors, teachers, friends, like just the Arabic that I have from life, from what my parents intended it for just like, a shared existing like life reality on this land with Palestinians. They saw it as an asset for me to use it in the intelligence. And I think I already knew that I'm not going to give them my Arabic and to go to the army, but it was just like another layer of just me not being able to see myself walking around in uniform, or holding a gun, or just like joining a military organization at the age of 18.
Right.
And so I refused, and I think by refusing the mandatory military draft, I think I wasn't aware how much I am buying or earning the trust of so many people. Like it's Palestinian citizens of Israel know what kind of a sacrifice it is to be an Israeli Jew and not join the army.
Right.
Like the very common question is, after you say your name when you meet someone, it's like, where did you serve in the army?
Wow, it's that ingrained into society. It's like, how are you? Where did you serve? Kind of thing.
And it's like it's like where did you go to school? So what did you do in the army? It really sets up your career. If you are like a journalist in the army, then you'll go to the biggest like media networks.
Wow.
If you are really good in computers, you'll be doing, something with like data and intelligence.
Has anyone done a study as to what is the refusal rate of kids that grew up in Nevi Shalom versus the rest of the country?
Yeah, the last kind of, you don't need to do a study because it's like such a like small amount of people, but
Did anyone count?
I think
Or
it's 50-50,
Wow.
around 50-50.
Oh, really? So like 50% of the
Yeah.
Jews that live in Nevi
Yeah.
Shalom decide
And
not
those
to.
who do go, the narrative is everything is getting so extreme that people like us, who are the like calm, like human, moderate people, we need to be there to make sure that the crazy, settler violence, like that, to be there to make sure that it's moral. Like,
Did any of your friends that decided to serve regret serving?
oh yeah.
Really?
They don't only regret it's I don't know if it's like regret serving, it's they realize that you can't have it all. You can't have it all. You can't like build shared life with Palestinian and also show up one day with uniform and continue to have a shared life and work on equality with Palestinians when you just like participated in the organization that is erasing military, that is erasing Palestinians. So I have two like childhood neighbors that they had to leave the village after their army service because they faced such like a crisis of
Themselves, like they
friendship
felt guilt or no?
friendship with Palestinians, of with themselves, like with what were they doing this whole time in their childhood, if they then they went and now they came back and they're kind of like trying to build the trust again and the relationships again. And
Do you mean the Palestinian citizens of Neve Shalom felt that their friendship was ruptured and they couldn't be friends with the people who
Yeah.
served? Okay.
I have seen for a fact like that the huge reason why I have and I continue to have such meaningful and deep relationships with my neighbors that are based on like trust and mutuality and like confidence and safety with each other is because it's because I didn't serve in the army.
Right.
Among other things, I think, but that's probably
Yeah.
like the core of
But
it.
maybe that was a statement to them that she's walking the walk, not just talking the talk kind of thing, to put it in a
Yeah.
metaphor. Yeah.
Yeah, but also people don't know how amazing Palestinian citizens of Israel are. Like, even they give grace. Most of my neighbors and my friends will still give grace to those who still went to the army but understand that they did a mistake, because they understand they understand how difficult it is to unlearn what we're what
the system.
the system
Yeah.
and what we've been fed. And quite honestly, like, I think like Palestinian citizens of Israel, people don't appreciate enough, people don't know enough that these are like the most like magnificent humans, like, because they on one hand carry this Israel was put on them, the
Yeah.
Israeli passport was like given to them, like they
Yeah.
didn't ask for it, they didn't want it, they just like they are in 48 and they are
Yeah.
there. So they have this component, whether they like it or not, of being Israeli. And then on the other hand, they are Palestinian.
Mm-hmm.
And so there isn't, as much as I, grew up with Palestinians and I speak Arabic and I'm so like, it's, such a huge part of my life. Like the way Palestinian citizens of Israel experience what is happening now, it is very, very, very intense, because also since October 7th, even more, they are being silenced and they are being prosecuted. And, my friend who just posted something on her Instagram on October 7th spent 1 year in house arrest for a post on Instagram. Yeah. A fellow comedian just 2 months ago was arrested for a joke, very mild, like not a very, like just stupid joke.
Arrested for a joke?
Arrested for a joke. Police showed up in his home and took him for an interrogation. And yeah. A singer was,
Wow.
there are so many examples of, so
So how can they say it's a democracy if there's no free speech? If someone can't even tell a joke?
Go ahead.
No, go.
No, I was going to say because it's only a democracy for part of the population.
But it's not even because I think a lot of us think, okay, you can call yourself a democracy and pretend it is for a portion of the population. But even that portion is, if you don't fall in line, that's not a democracy, though.
I mean, we're seeing that here, though, too. I mean, is Canada really a democracy? Is the United States really a democracy? Also, I think it's also really interesting as we're sitting in Canada right now talking about all of this stuff too, right? The segregation of schools, what we learn in our own education system. I grew up in Canada where we had maybe half a chapter, say a chapter on First Nations, right? Like,
Right.
I mean, you can't. I think
What is the segregation in school here?
well, not necessarily segregation, but I mean, we did have, like First
Residential
Nations go to,
schools?
Oh, okay.
yeah, but and those existed while I was, up until the 80s, like it's on our very recent history, I guess is
I
what
agree,
I'm, what
but
I'm saying.
I think maybe it hit home for me because I'm a comedian. I never, in Canada at least, I agree with you now since Trump has been in office, things have been horrible and free speech is being stripped in the States. But I never, I just can't imagine being arrested for a joke, because I've been a comic for 12, 13 years. It's so crazy to
Yeah.
me that a joke could land me in jail. I think it just speaks to what is needed to enforce this system in place,
Yeah. Or to send a message like, you can't make jokes if you are Palestinian, but the same jokes and worse jokes Jewish Israeli comedians are making, no
Oh, so who was
consequences.
arrested was a Palestinian comedian.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood. I thought
Oh.
it was an Israeli Jewish comedian who got
Oh,
arrested.
no.
Okay, my bad. Okay. Wow. Yeah, I remember seeing a video of a woman being arrested because she posted something on her WhatsApp status that was in
Yeah.
solidarity with
Yeah.
the people in Gaza.
Yeah. It's
It's scary.
it's scary. It's scary. It's not even like, yeah. I mean, the Palestinian flag is banned. You can't hold pictures of
Dead children.
dead children. It's
But I love seeing you at the Mezarvot and the protests with your megaphone. I love it. It gives me so much hope and strength, and I just feel so much love towards you seeing you do that. It was amazing. It really was.
you.
Amber, so you were born in Canada. Can you tell us about how you got into filmmaking and what your experience was like growing up here as the child of Lebanese immigrants?
Yeah, my parents weren't immigrants. My grandparents.
Oh, okay.
So actually, I was just raised by two Canadians that like to eat hummus. That's basically my upbringing.
Nice.
Yeah. No, I grew up in Grand Prairie, Alberta, which is
Alberta.
yes.
Because when you think Lebanese, you think Halifax, maybe
where's
Montreal.
the first mosque in Canada built?
Where? Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
It was Lebanese immigrants, Christian, Muslim, and Jewish that built a mosque, and because there was a huge, anyways, the whole immigration thing. A lot of immigrants came at the turn of the century from Syria, Lebanon, and they migrated to Saskatchewan, southern Saskatchewan, and also up into Edmonton.
Wow.
Yeah, so Edmonton actually has a really huge Lebanese population.
Really?
But so my grandparents are sort of that wave of migration, and my parents were both born in southern Saskatchewan, and my dad went up to Grand Prairie and somehow brought my mom along, and we were like the first Lebanese family there, first Arab family.
Wow.
Yeah, so we grew up. I mean, we grew up playing a lot of hockey, eating a lot of hummus. We had a very, very Canadian upbringing.
Really?
But learned how to dubkey.
Nice.
That is that's my upbringing.
Amazing.
Wow, as soon as we got here yesterday, people started talking about hockey. It was crazy.
Yeah, I know, including me. But yeah. I'm an Oilers fan, if anyone was.
In Israel, they ask, where did you serve? And in Canada, they ask, did you watch the hockey game?
Yeah.
Yeah, which team?
Which team? Yeah, Oilers. Yeah, and so I was living in Vancouver during 9/11, and I was an adult, quite a bit older than everyone here. And and after 9/11, all of a sudden, people started to ask if I was Muslim or Christian, if I was like Shia or Sunni. Like I was just like, wait, I'm from Saskatchewan, man. Like, where do you come from? And then, but my parents started to get phone calls telling them to go back to where they came from, which is like
Saskatchewan.
Yeah. No, and what it did for me was made me sort of realize I had to have a better understanding of sort of my heritage, right? Lebanon, and I grew up during the Civil War. We didn't go, like, my parents went there once in 1972. I found out that my mom and dad left me as a year-old baby with my aunt and went to Lebanon to party.
What?
And conceived my brother.
Oh,
yeah,
my
I was just like,
God.
you left me alone at 1? It's crazy.
Wow.
So how long did they go?
I don't know. Like a few weeks. I mean, I don't know. A couple weeks. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I sort of packed my bags and went to Lebanon in 2002, right before the Iraqi War.
Had you ever lived in Lebanon before?
No, I went there once in the 90s with some family, but yeah, no, I hadn't. And I actually saw a film by May Masri, who's a really amazing Palestinian documentary filmmaker called Children of Shatila.
Oh, wow.
And it was this group of Palestinian kids that were in Lebanon. And I think for me, I didn't at the time hadn't really realized. I had been to Lebanon, didn't see any, refugee camps. Nobody had mentioned Palestine or Palestinians. And I think it was just like this realization that there were these. Anyways, I went, found the organization that the film was about and volunteered and ended up staying there for a few months and worked with Palestinian refugees in the Bekaa, which is where my family was from, and stayed with some, distant relatives of my parents and stuff. And then came back to Vancouver. I ended up sitting on a board of an organization that did sort of one of those normalization programs where they brought Israeli, Palestinian, Canadian kids together, but they layered a film school on top of it.
Wow.
And I sat on the board. Actually, I went to a meeting, and a Palestinian friend of mine brought me to the meeting, and they wanted people to sit on the board. And my friend literally put my hand up, but there was a Mahajibi that also put her hand up. So everyone voted for the Mahajibi. But then she decided not to do it, so they called me up to say, like, will you come and sit on this board? Yeah, we don't have many other Arabs. So can you please come? Anyways, the experience was just, it was such an amazing experience. And so I ended up going to Palestine to see what happened to the kids. And while I was there, I was offered a job. Anyways, this whole thing. Anyways, I ended up in Palestine. I went for 6 months. I ended up staying for 7 years. And while I was there,
Where in Palestine?
in Ramallah.
Wow.
Yeah, and while I was there, I started making films, and I came across these women race car drivers, and we ended up making that film. I also made a bunch of films. So I'm very self-taught. Basically, I just taught myself how to make films while living in Palestine.
That's so
bizarre.
inspiring.
I also started a street hockey league.
In Ramallah? Oh my God.
Yeah. We had T-shirts. I don't know if this is gonna get me in trouble. We had T-shirts with the Hezbollah logo, but instead of Hezbollah, it said Ramallah, and instead of a gun, it had a hockey stick.
Oh my God. I love it. Can we get those?
Yeah,
still?
I should get the make. I've also. I need to. Yeah, I know. I should sell them and send the proceeds to.
Oh my gosh,
children in
amazing.
Gaza.
And tell us a little bit more about Speed Sisters.
Oh, Speed Sisters. Yeah, so Speed Sisters, it was such a fun film. It was such an amazing film to make. It came about where I don't even know how to talk about it. We came across there were these races in Palestine, which in and of itself was kind of wild,
Yes.
right? And I had a good family friend who worked for the UN, and I was trying to get into photography and film. So I offered to go out, you know, on with people from UNRWA, and she paired me with this woman who's this Palestinian woman that drove me around and was telling me this story about how she used to be called the queen of the races or queen of the track or something like that, and was telling me about these race car, and I was just like, this is crazy. You're like, you're a race car driver? Like, that's wild. And then simultaneously, my producer had come across the races and went to one of the races and saw that there were women there.
Wow.
And so we just started following them around for the first year.
With cameras?
I mean, I barely knew how to shoot, but yeah, I did have a camera, and the woman who was the queen of the track, Suna, we followed her for a year, and then she quit.
Oh my God. Wasted.
So yeah, kind of, but it was wasted in one way, but it was really great in the other way because we got to know everybody and they knew us. We were at the races. Like, it was kind of like that year was really good research and really good relationship development. So anyways, we followed a group. There were the 5 women. 4 of them were racers. One was the manager.
Mm-hmm.
4 of them lived in Ramallah, and 1 lived in Jenin.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was living there, and I taught myself how to shoot, like, often I would just pick up the camera and shoot. And I'd have, like, everyone I know worked on that film. They held a boom pole or, like, translated for me or, like, something. Because I don't speak Arabic. I lived there for 7 years. My Arabic is still, like, really, really bad. Not enough to converse with them, right? Anyways, we just sort of made it. And we ended up getting Sundance funding and like, really early on. And it took us 5 years, and we made the film. We had a really amazing the editor that edited Coexistance, My Ass, is the same editor. She's a Palestinian citizen of Israel, and whose cousins went to school with Noam in the village.
Wow.
Yeah,
Her family lives.
What a small world.
yeah. So yeah, no, the film's really sweet. It's a really fun.
And, you know, I think documentary as an art form lends itself so well to showcasing inequalities, you know, or acting as a tool for change, or putting a spotlight on issues that aren't necessarily covered. And with Noam, like, because what she does with stand-up is so particular, how did you manage to capture her personal journey, but also with the backdrop of, you know, the political message of the film?
Yeah. I mean, I just meant, like, we did that with Speed Sisters as well. Like, that is, like, the whole point of taking sort of, you know, I think with documentaries, there's a lot of different ways to make documentaries, but the way that I like to get into, especially issues around Israel-Palestine, let's say, like, an issue like this that everybody sees and knows and, like, think that they know everything about, is to come at it through, like, sort of an unusual sort of way in, and through a really personal story. And then through that personal story, you're actually telling the macro story as well, right? But it's through the lens of particular people, right? So, like, with Speed Sisters, like, we were able to show life in the West Bank. Like, they were, you know, 5 women that are driving around, which seems like it's really wild, but we also learned about like gender relations. We learned about, like, societal issues. We learned about, like, how the occupation affects them on a very personal level, right? Like, you see their world, which in some ways, and I think for a lot of I'd like to say this about that film, which I thought was really interesting, for a lot of people that live in the diaspora, right? Like, for Lebanese, they can't travel to Palestine. Like, we also don't know Palestine because we only experience it through the media, through the news. And so for a lot of people, like, when we showed the film in the Arab world, they were like, oh my God, I've never seen the streets of Jenin. Wow. I've never seen the streets of Ramallah like this. I've never been, you know, like, you take them into a world that they don't have access to, right? And Coexistence, my ass is like that too. Like, when we've shown the film, we had some rough cut screenings in the U.S. and at Bard University, and there was a couple of Palestinians that were from the West Bank that sat in on it, and they were, like, really kind of, like, at first, like, really guarded, but by the end, they couldn't stop thinking about it because they were like, I've never seen what it's like to be an Israeli who is like on the streets. I've never seen the streets of Tel Aviv. I've never seen, a Jewish person or people that are like this, right? And so for them, it was even, like when Noam's talking about the occupation, and like they get it, but it was very interesting for them to sort of see the inner workings of this place that's like, that they also can access. So
I will say I felt some resentment watching the film that you were able to walk through Israel when I feel like I and so many others couldn't. And I didn't know what to do with that emotion. And I think that's why it's so important for people to see it, because no matter what they think they're going to feel about it or what they think they know, I think it's going to elicit some emotion that they didn't expect.
and then complex emotions too, from all directions, right? Like it's not always a comfortable film to watch.
But thanks for saying that.
Yeah. And I think that, especially like Rabab and I were really aware of that, is that the film, you really have to sit with it like that. The first 10 minutes is you're not really sure where this film is going, and you're not sure who Noam is yet. And I think for a lot of Arabs watching it, there's a lot of discomfort in that first part of the film.
Yes.
Right.
I
And then
felt
that
it.
flips, because then there's a lot of discomfort for Jewish people watching it maybe towards the end of the film.
Yes.
Right. Like I don't
What
think
was
it's
normalized, I'm sorry to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but what was normalized in the first 10 minutes was so uncomfortable for us. And what was so comfortable for us is not normalized for them. So that's why it's like, I don't think there's any other film that can touch people across the spectrum that way.
Wow, it's so, people come up to us and they tell us stuff about the film after and stuff, but hearing this is so interesting, and it's so good for me also to listen, because I take things for granted, and I'm kind of sick of my own story and stuff, but I do wonder, what this feeling is like, because part of the reason I do what I do is because I have this privilege where I can go anywhere in Israel, and and I'm I'm so cool. I have friends in Ramallah. I can also get in my car and go to Ramallah, even though like
They can't do the same.
yeah. And so and part of what I do is like, because I have this privilege, I use it, and I use my voice to not just do like Tinder jokes when I have the stage, but it is something that I'm aware of, that it's like that in the in the end, like I am Israeli, like I have nowhere to run or hide with it.
Yeah.
Right. And it takes a while to like get to know the character, and so
But what you've done with it is incredible. Like, I don't think a lot of us have seen someone who believes in our humanity, who will refuse to join the army at their own personal cost, who will lead protests even though, producers might not work with you. We've never seen that. Like, the only image I had of Judaism growing up was soldiers occupying the West Bank. That's all I knew. And it wasn't until I got to undergrad that I made my first Jewish friend. And I was like, oh. And I felt a little bit guilty when I made that friend, because I was like, am I betraying Palestinian people by normalizing relations with you, And so to see the exact opposite of an occupying soldier in you is it's just out of this world. It's not something I could have ever dreamed of seeing, let alone meeting, let alone performing with, let alone hearing you say these incredible jokes that are so healing. Like, one of the most incredible parts of the film was when you performed at the Palestine Comedy Festival, and you actually wrote jokes for that audience. And it was jokes that released, I'm sure, a lot of their pain, like it released mine. I'm going to ruin the joke. Is that okay? Can I say it on the podcast?
No, that joke is
Please.
all over. That joke
Oh,
is everywhere.
it?
No,
you
I'm
say,
kidding.
don't worry, I'm only here for 7 minutes, not 70 years. And it killed. And I was dying in my seat. I was like, yes, like you just spoke to me as a comedian as well on another level, that
Can you talk more about the resentment in the beginning?
Sure. I just felt like it was started geographically with your ability to be on that land.
Okay.
When, growing up in Jordan, 3 out of 4 Jordanians were ethnically displaced in 48 or 67, and they're not allowed to return. And I don't know that I would even be welcome in Israel, right? Like my friend went on Birthright and they asked her if she had a friend from the region, and she said my name. She's a New York comedian. And they kept asking her if I gave her anything to pack in her bag multiple times. Did Nour give you something?
Did you?
I did. Yeah. I gave her a joke.
The most explosive weapon.
Yeah. But just the mention of a friend who is from that area was a threat to them. So I'm not allowed there. So the fact that you're able to zip, zap, zop, and then also leave and go to the States whenever you want.
For a Harvard
Yes.
scholarship, yeah.
And then come
So
back
annoying.
when so many people are living in tents and can't go back to the land that their ancestors lived in for hundreds of years. It just makes me feel mad. I'm mad and I'm like, why do you get to do that when so many other people can't? What makes you so special?
When was the part in the film that you trusted her?
When she said that she refused to join the army. That was, I think, when it started.
That
Because
was really late in the film.
yeah, I'm
Wow.
sorry.
No, don't be sorry. This
And
is, I mean,
when I
actually-
saw you crying about whether to lead the protest or not and talking to your family, and when the most is also when you confronted the host about the Sheikh Jarrah evictions, and when you were in the protest with the megaphone and these angry men were yelling at you, and you stayed calm and you just presented fact to them. You said, you think I'm ashamed to this country? I'm glad I didn't turn into you. Like, I'm just getting
I'm proud to
goosebumps.
be ashamed of a country that is a fascist, racist country.
Right.
But you know what? Like what you like. It's so important, Nour, what you're saying, because the first part when you were complimenting me and when you were saying that, you know, your first Jewish friend was only in undergrad and that you felt like my goal is to end the occupation and stop the genocide and to end inequality and to have this era of Jewish superiority behind us. Like, I'm not so... I get a bit stressed when people tell me that my character disarmed them and now they're like happy to see like, oh, there is an Israeli Jew that I can trust and that I can love, and you know, that's less, it's good, but it's less my I would say like my goal, because like the goal that we should be focused on is like, I'm doing the very like bare minimum human thing that a person who knows what the situation is could be doing. So my aim is not to like give like good rep and to show that there are like Israelis like me, because we are not a big number. The aim is to build more, movement and traction, and for people to be aware and for people to fight, to end these atrocities and to put Jewish superiority behind us.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So like,
Where is the worry coming from? What are you worried about from what I said? Because you said it worries you a bit.
No. Maybe that was not a a choice, because I know that you can look at my character and you can make a very, very good judgment that my story can, like, my story gave you hope, or what happens in the film gives you hope, but you also know that
You're 1 in a billion.
yeah, and
I'm very much aware of that.
yeah, no, and I know that, and I know you are.
Yeah.
I'm just worried. I'm just worried that there will be people who'll be like, oh, so there are Israelis like
Right.
this, and then we lose sight of what it is that we are trying to do and
Right.
accomplish. And so I just wanted to mention that, so
Thank
that
you for
for
saying
people
that.
who are listening
Yeah.
to.
For me, seeing those protests gives me so much hope in my darkest times throughout these past 18 months, where I became like almost
Yeah.
a lot of people just so depressed and felt helpless and like I couldn't do anything. When I saw protesters in Tel Aviv, when I saw them protesting at the Ministry of Defense or in front of, where I don't know where the soldiers go to work, but there, it just,
Where the soldiers go.
I don't know. They were going into an office, a building, and
With their briefcase.
yeah. Well, some of them had briefcases. Yes. But no, it was just like, yes, there are people in Israel who know the truth. And they, even though they're small and they're getting arrested and they're getting beat up by police, it's makes me feel less gaslit and more sane, because everyone in Western media is parroting the Israeli narrative. But if there's people in Israel who are connecting and saying what we're thinking, it makes me feel like, okay, I'm not going crazy. Like, yes, what is happening is real and we need to change the system. And I think a lot of us would just love to end the occupation and to lift the siege on Gaza and to have, honestly, we would just be happy with that. To end Jewish supremacy feels like such a huge milestone that I can't even like imagine it.
Just hearing you speak about it was is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm very, I think maybe because I'm a comedian, it struck with me on another level. I think I saw myself in you.
Oh.
I saw myself in you at that open mic where there was like 4 people. I was like, I've been there. Telling jokes that you don't want to tell. I've been there. I've tried to write jokes, and the show we performed at, those jokes weren't well received in 2023, even early 2024. Like, they did well. You think anyone laughed at my Hamas joke? No, I had people heckle me. I had people say, that's not funny. Why are you saying that? And then I'd have to, or if I was on a show and I wasn't strong enough to do material about what was happening in Gaza, and I do old material, I'd hate myself for
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah. Oh
I
my
just
God.
saw myself so much in you and your experiences and talking about, I had a joke about being hairy when I started comedy. You know what I mean? And yeah, I think,
What was the joke? Do you remember?
yeah, it was about Disney. I loved watching Disney growing up. And I loved watching Aladdin because as an Arab woman dating a hairy beast, no, sorry, I love Beauty and the Beast because as a hairy woman dating a hairy beast, not that far from reality. That's what the joke was. Yeah.
That's cute. Well, you kind of have these, like, I guess in the first years of doing comedy, you are kind of in search for your own identity as a comedian, right?
Yes.
And we have these like big ideals because we watched specials that inspired us. And you watch Trevor Noah speak about South Africa, and you watch
Yeah.
Nanette speak about these big gender things, and and like gender inequality, and you watch all kinds of like Hassan Minaj with The Homecoming King, and all kinds of specials that did so well, and you're like, I want to do something big with my comedy. But then when you go down to do the work, it's so
the
much.
hardest thing
It's
I've
the
ever
hardest
written
thing.
jokes about.
And you
But
have to
can
and like if you have 10 minutes, like how, because for people who don't know, like when we start doing well in comedy and other comedians are putting us on their shows, you have like 10 to 15 minutes, and then you have to go into like, do I tell a story? Do I want to take the audience with me on a ride from the end to, or do I want to try a new thing? And so you're in an identity crisis all the time.
Yes. And can I say this? I've written jokes about a lot of things, like even my depression, having suicidal thoughts. This is the hardest topic. Even when you talk about Trevor Noah talking about South Africa, Hannah Gatsby talking about gender identity, those topics aren't as hard, and I'll tell you why. Because there's no money still behind them. When we're in capitalism, there's no money. South African apartheid is done. There's no one profiting from it. Gender identity, like there's no company benefiting from gender identity. This is a conflict that is putting money into people's pockets. And because of that, it is harder for people to laugh. It is harder because we don't live in the same shared reality. When I say a setup to a joke, we can agree on it. You know, if we talk about a South African apartheid that happened years ago. But if we're talking about an ongoing right
Yeah.
now where weapons manufacturers are making money, mainstream media is making money, politicians are making money, that setup, that shared reality, it's not a shared reality. It's different.
Also, when the emotions are so high,
Yes.
and people who are not Arab, not Jewish, not from, you know, the region, they somehow see themselves in these issues, and the emotions are so high. And when the emotions are so high, you also it's almost impossible to have conversations because people are having like emotional conversations. And we spoke to a film critic that is here at the film festival. She has 1 million followers for reviewing documentaries, and she posts these like online reviews.
Wow.
And she said that the most hate and comments and fire and traffic that she gets is when she posts about films that have to do with Israel Palestine. Like, she's never seen anything like this. Like, she will post and post about films, but when it comes to like No Other Land or this, then it'll get crazy.
Yes.
And it's like a lot of people from all over see themselves in these issues, and it's not facts. People didn't watch No Other Land and then commented about it.
You don't think so?
People just automatically went into like the automatic pilot.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't even think of
But
that.
I think that, I mean, when you like, yeah, I think that there's people that are outside of being Jewish or Arab that are coming to this issue, right? Because I think they're, after 18 months of watching this genocide on our phones, they've had it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
it's personal in the sense that you know, we're living through this really horrible time and feel really helpless. But I think that most of those comments are coming from like bots or like there's a whole army of people that are commenting on that stuff that are, you know, that I don't think it's just like random people that are like feeling a certain way about this issue and commenting, right? Like, that's not who's
But
commenting.
it gets people riled up.
But it gets and then you see the back and forth from it. But I do think that the you know, it's been so that people now have educated themselves. You know, it was like when Black Lives Matter was going on, that everyone was having Black Lives Matter like book clubs and stuff like that. Like, they were like, I really saw, especially in the States, like people just educating themselves. Like, and the same sort of thing happened, I feel like, after October 7th, right? Is that people were just taking it really upon themselves to read. Like, the number one selling book was like Rashid Halidi's 100 Years War on Palestine, right? Like, it's like
It's true.
so many people were reading that book.
Crazy.
I see a lot of people aware of the day-to-day events in a way that they could have never been.
Yeah.
Like keeping up to date with the political prisoners, when aid was last cut off in Gaza, what Israel has done in the West Bank. I think there is a magnifying glass on Israel right now and what it's doing, and it's come at the cost of 60,000 dead people. But the world is listening and the world is watching.
And I think there's just also been this like disconnect between what we see, like, and then what we're hearing on the news,
Yes.
right? And what our government is telling us and the actions of our government. And I think that that's why this issue now is so important to Americans and to Canadians, is now we're seeing like a direct link with our own freedom of speech here.
Yeah.
Right. Like with what's going on with Colombia, what's going on, like it's no longer just an issue of Israel Palestine. Like our government's like complicit, like,
Yes.
like we're complicit in this too, right? Especially in the States, right?
And I've
Canada
spoken-
too, for that
yeah.
matter. But I mean, you know, the way that these protesters in the United States are being treated is just leading. You know, we can all see it, and this is not just with Israel Palestine. It's going to be on trans rights. It's going to come to
Yes.
climate change.
Yes.
It's going to, like one of the trans rights is a massive issue that we should be looking at right now. But it's spilling over. Like Israel Palestine is just the tip of the iceberg, and it's also like let's test this stuff on
Yes.
this really contentious issue, and then it's going to ripple out into other things. And so it's like it's really important. I think people that aren't from the region need to be paying attention to this issue.
But I do see the interconnectedness, like how the queer community has really rallied for Palestinian rights. I do think that we are seeing that our rights and our future is bound up in each other's. So that's why I think that it's the way that the queer and trans community is being treated is absolutely horrible. I completely agree with you. Trans people make up less than 1% of the population, and yet they're in every single headline being attacked. Why were we talking about gendered washrooms? Who cares? Aren't there bigger issues to talk about? But no, it's part of the politics of what magicians do, right? What is it called? Look look over here while all this horrible shit is happening. All right, so tell us what is next for you guys.
So I'm gonna get pregnant. Just kidding. No,
she might be pregnant now.
No,
Can you call it Nour?
I'm not.
Nour can work for
both.
both.
I can't call it Nour because my brother called his son Nour,
That's amazing.
so they can't be like,
Do you have baby
Counterpoint?
huh?
Do you have baby names picked?
I do.
Okay, don't give them. Don't
Okay.
spoil it though.
Counterpoint? Nour
One is
a-
Netanyahu.
We'll call him Niti for short.
I call him Bibi, baby Bibi.
Really?
Just kidding. No.
Not Ariel Sharon? More OG?
Oh my god. Will you pick an Arab name or a Hebrew name?
Amber, what's in the middle for me? You know me.
Persian.
A Persian name.
Persian.
It's a safe bet.
Shireen. It's
a good
Shireen.
Good.
Shireen.
No, but I love like Shiraz and Shireen and we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see.
that's-
There's a great Persian restaurant you have to go to while you're in town.
Here? Oh.
Yes.
What's it called?
What's it called, guys?
Oh, they don't pay you. Don't give them. Just kidding.
Pomegranate? Pomegranate. That's what it's called.
Oh.
They have a sister one that's open on weekends called Taht et Tavus. The brunch, Taht et Tavus, is amazing.
I love how you just saying it. Taht et Tavus.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. I have no idea what it means. I just read it. But pomegranate and Taht et Tavus are incredible.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I used to go for Ramadan. They have iftar meals at Pomegranate.
Do you fast?
I do, yeah. I had some mental health issues. So
I love how you're like, I had some. mental health
was
issues."
crazy. Lost it.
I love that. You
Lost it.
stand up for news.
It's true. So I didn't fast for 2 years, but then actually the strength of the Palestinian people is what got me to start fasting again. Be like, if they can handle this, I'm going to do this with them. Yeah. So you didn't answer the question. What's next?
Okay, so first of all, so I am touring, doing comedy shows.
Okay.
And a lot of it is with the film festivals, but also in other locations, depending on invitations and stuff. And the film is doing a run of festivals. And
Wow.
Oh, we'll be back here in Toronto for the I don't know if it's been by this time it'll be announced for the Arab Toronto Arab Festival, film festival.
And
Yeah. I think it's I think we're the closing film on the 29th.
what'd
I'm
be
not even
cool,
sure
Noam?
I'm coming back.
The next time I'm in Jordan, you should come visit.
yeah,
Would you want to?
of course. I mean,
Okay.
I've been to Amman many times.
Oh, you have?
But I just,
We'll go. Have you been to Petra?
yeah,
Yeah.
I have
Okay.
a long time ago.
Okay, maybe we'll go again.
Yeah,
that
we
would be
can
so
just-
much fun.
Make a trip, not not work. And comedy.
No comedy, absolutely not. No, we're
You
taking a break.
you don't do comedy when you're in Jordan. so-
Usually not, and also people are really sad over what's happening.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would go to a comedy show
Yeah.
right now. Yeah. Okay, what about you, Amber?
Oh, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Oh, I was speaking for
Yeah.
the all the things.
Where
sorry.
can people find you, Noam?
On Instagram, Noam_June, and also you can
Spell
follow
that
the
though. 'Cause
Noam
nobody.
NOAM_JOON. And follow the page of the film also.
At Coexistence, my ass.
Yeah.
I'm just, we're doing film festivals. We're also still raising money to do impact. Like we want this film to be seen sort of far and wide. So
people can donate on your Instagram account?
no,
No.
really just like us on Instagram. I guess there's not really any donations.
My
It's more
PayPal is...
yeah. No. But I mean, also too, the more likes that we have and the more people following us, it also, it's always good for everything.
Please follow, like, support, share, subscribe. All the other
Buy
millennial
tickets.
things. Yes.
Yeah.
Buy tickets. Go watch the film. Please go watch the film. It's incredible. You won't regret it. It's amazing. Where do you live?
Where do I live now?
Yeah.
I'm living at like Brooklyn.
Oh, you're in New York.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool.
The promised land.
The promised land, yeah. That's West Jerusalem, right?
I live in the East Jerusalem of Brooklyn, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and for stopping by and for being and for doing everything that you're doing.
Thank you, Nour. You're so
you, Nour.
wonderful and amazing and funny. Thank you.
Thank you.
Love you.
Thank you for listening. If you like this episode, if you like the podcast, please consider joining our Patreon and supporting us financially to afford the studio, the editing, my producer, my audio engineer who work tirelessly behind the scenes. My Patreon is patreon.com/Nour Hadidi. And my comedy album is out. It's called Muslim All-Star, and you can listen to it anywhere, really. Spotify, Apple Music, really anywhere, all the other places. And yeah, that's it.
It is an agonizing reminder that the fight for justice knows no borders, and we must